Good morning and welcome to our 284th weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is this is like an AMA on Reddit, meaning you can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, career questions, investing questions, any questions you want. My humble goal is to help you take your career, your company, your portfolio, etc., to the next level. So without further ado, let's begin. And please, everybody, click the like button and subscribe. My marketing person always reminds me to say that. All right, I'll kick it off with Connie. Hey, Connie. Connie wrote, Chris, hope you're doing great this morning. Likewise, I have interest in finance, and I want to do a CFA. Yeah, CFA is great. It stands for Certified Financial Analyst designation. I think it's better than getting an MBA if you want to learn about finance. It's a 3-year designation where you write one exam each year. You study in your own time, and I can give you the guidebooks to study for that if you want to. You can buy them for cheap off eBay. Now, you wrote, I'm currently working in an administrative role in a food company, and I want to change to a career to be a financial advisor. I want to be, wrote here, a registered financial advisor for an insurance company. I heard making a living is tough because it's a sales job. I'm not great in sales. What should I do? Yeah. Well, first of all, you can learn how to sell. And 75% of all jobs in the finance industry are sales oriented. And a lot of people are worried that AI is going to take away a lot of finance roles. I disagree because a lot of them are grip and grin based. So let me give you a couple tips on how to sell. Tip number one is mention that you have a reference customer. And so for many startups or salespeople, if you have really one well-known customer or a bank, for example, as an investor or a customer, it's really going to help you sell the product. And it gives you instant credibility, and it might heavily influence other customers to want to buy from you directly. Another tip is this. When you're selling, and it doesn't matter if it's an interview or you're selling a product or yourself, confidence always leads to perceived competence. So how do you build interview before a sales pitch or an interview? Or how do you build confidence before a sales pitch or an interview? Well, what you can do is this. You can tell yourself before the meeting, I don't care if I get this job or this customer. And that will put your mind at ease. And I'm not saying to be rude or disingenuous, but remember that time when you went on a date and you were not yourself. Didn't really work out, did it? But remember that time you went on a date that you were so confident that you didn't really care if the person you asked out would say yes or no, and it worked out. And I know that's a bizarre thing for me to say in sales, but when it comes to sales or dating, if you come across as desperate, it doesn't work out, especially when you're interviewing for a job. Now, when you're selling, always talk to the decision maker and qualified leads. Otherwise, you're really wasting your time. Yeah. And so, like, the way it works is, let's say that you want to meet with a CEO, any CEO, because that person is the decision maker. Well, the best way to meet a CEO and get his or her time is to go to an annual shareholder meeting. Now, anybody can go to shareholder meetings. They're usually at a hotel in a big city like New York. They serve bad coffee. There's a lot of old people like me in the audience. And what you do is at the very end of that shareholder meeting, I want you to go up to the CEO and introduce yourself. Tell them who you are and what you're selling, or if you want to get a job at that firm. Why does this work? Because the CEO has a captive audience, and the CEO will not leave that shareholder meeting until everybody else has left. Why? Because there's other senior executives in the audience and they want to set kind of a good influence or kind of tell everybody this is what you got to do, put the customer first. Also, there's board members in the audience potentially and other investors. So what you do is you say something like this. I'm really interested in introducing my product to your company because I know it can save your firm a lot of money, or it can help you grow revenue, or I'd love to work at your firm. And then you say this, and they're going to keep talking to you. Okay? You say this to them. Is there anybody in your company I can talk to about this in more detail? And they'll probably tell you something along the lines of, yeah, sure, talk to Joanne Smith in operations. Step 2, what you do next is you go to LinkedIn and you send an email to Joanne Smith in operations. And you say, I met with your CEO this morning. and she recommended that I reach out to you. Please let me know if you have time for a Zoom meeting or a coffee meeting. And then once you get that informational meeting with them, you always want to bond before business, right? You want to be yourself because everybody else is taken. And, business is about relationships first and product knowledge second. So you want to bond first. Then they're very politely going to ask you, why are we meeting? Then you can talk about what you're selling. And that's a great way for everybody to get a job as well. The problem with just applying for a job online is every time you see an opening online, you have a 1 in 250 chance of getting that job. And so the person that ultimately gets that job knows somebody at the company. So that's what you have to do. So how do you do it? Well, step 1, make an amazing LinkedIn profile, which I help you with in my MBA program. Step 2, you send an email to 50 people that work at a company you want to work at. That's right. And if you think that's too many meetings, ask yourself, how badly do you want that job? And the way you get these meetings is in LinkedIn. You send somebody an email, and never send emails because nobody reads them. In fact, everybody on this call right now, I guarantee you, every email you've received, you've read. So what do you say in the email? Well, less is more. You say 2 things you have in common with them. Like this: John, hope all is well. I'm also from Mississauga, and I also went to the Toronto French School, and I now live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee or a Zoom call. Thanks a lot, Chris. Notice what I did there. I didn't say why I wanted to meet. All I did was I mentioned a couple things we have in common. And there's nothing unethical about that. And they're going to be curious about, why does this person want to meet? And they'll most likely take the meeting. And if you think to yourself, Chris, that's cray-cray, man. Like, no one's going to take a meeting with me. Well, think of it this way, okay? Let's imagine it's 20 years in the future. And you're 20 years more successful than you already are today. And somebody reaches out to you that is really similar to you. You know, they went to the same high school as you. You know, they're from the same town. They may be working in the same industry. Maybe they went to the same church or religious institution. And if they ask you for a meeting, this person that's way younger than you asks you for a meeting, would you take the meeting? Of course you would. Ask and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. People want to help you. All you have to do is ask. Yeah. And there's nothing more important than networking in business. Remember, relationships are more important than product knowledge, and your network is your net worth. Yeah. So you can practice all this stuff, Connie, when it comes to sales. Just remember to set up tons of informational meetings. That's how you'll get customers. And that's how I've gotten tons of customers. That's humbly how I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. And that's how I've gotten jobs as well. Yeah. Closed mouths don't get fed. All right. Next question I've got is from Sean. Hey, Sean, who wrote, hey, Chris, how are you doing? I'm great, thanks. I actually got a new internet service provider. I use Comcast, and they're brutal with customer support. And as Jeff Bezos said, a company is only as good as its customer supports. So I called Comcast because internet was down, and I couldn't get through to a human being. So I now have 2 internet service providers. I have one as backup. I have Starlink, which is made by Elon Musk's company, and so made by SpaceX. And so what I did was I put Starlink on my roof. It's really easy to set up. Not as fast as regular internet, but you got 200 megs download and 20 megs upload, which is good enough. And if you live in a cold climate, it heats up whenever it senses snow or ice is on it. I'm a nerd, I know. Always have a backup plan. All right. Next, so question is, could you be able to give information on supply chain, careers, and its growth? Yeah, absolutely. So supply chain, you got to think of yourself like you're Tim Cook, the brilliant CEO of Apple, who was once the COO. And you have to think about data analysis so that you can more efficiently put together products at the lowest cost. And if you're interested in supply chain analysis, what I would do is I would learn as much as you can about data analytics. You know, you can play around with easy to use applications initially, like Excel. as well as Power BI and Tableau, which is owned by Salesforce.com. And then if you want, what you can do is you can learn higher end stuff like how to code in Python. And as part of my MBA program, go to my website. I teach you how to code in Python and data analysis in a lot of details. But you got to love data as well. Yeah, you really have to enjoy it. Okay, but set up those informational meetings. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Hey, Manas, how are you? You wrote, I have a lot to ask you and say this week. Let's push the goalpost. Oot. I love it. And that's how oot is supposed to be said. I'm Canadian. It's not out, Americans. Okay. All right. Shahar, how are you? Ani chotze coffee achshav. Yeah. And somebody asked recently, why do I drink coffee with a straw? It's because I do a lot of these webcasts. I've done 7,000 hours of virtual instructor-led training now, and I want my teeth to be whiter. So that's why I use a straw. Yeah. And baking powder now on my teeth when I brush my teeth. All right. Next up, you will wrote, hey, what's going on, Chris? Thanks and God bless. God bless you more. Good to see you. Okay. And then you wrote, okay. And I can't read every comment, but I love all of you. Amar wrote, hey, Chris, good morning. Back to your studio. It's good to see you. Thanks. It's great to be back. I was in Canada for a month. My little sister, Katie, passed away. God bless her. And I spent about a month with my family. It's hard to go through this, but I got to tell you, having strong faith, regardless of what religion we all are. There's one God, but having strong faith really makes it easier to deal with this. I hope we get to see you again one day, Katie. I love you. Okay. All right. Next up, Tesla Vision wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning. I just passed my SIE. Congratulations. Going for my 6. Excellent. I have a bit of a dilemma. Sure. I own an property and casual insurance agency. Okay. I'm selling it, but I'm not involved anymore. How should I go about telling the firm? Okay. Okay, rephrase that question. It's kind of hard for me to understand. Yeah, if you don't mind. Do you own a property and casualty insurance company, or you work there, or you're selling the product? I'm not sure. Thank you. All right, next up, Martha wrote, hey, Chris from Zurich, how are you? You wrote, I'm happy to be here, and I really appreciate your help. Thank you. Thank you. When one teaches to learn. And I recommend everybody mentor people at your company. Mentor younger people as well, because you're doing a good thing by paying it forward, and you're also reinforcing yourself what your DNA subfabric blueprint is for success when one teaches to learn. Yeah. Okay. All right. You wrote, can you cover trades as the market is not working with the Japanese yen carry trade, and what's the impact? Yeah, I'll explain what happened. So, about two weeks ago or so, the Nikkei index in Japan was down 12%. That was the biggest one-day decline since the Tuesday after Black Monday in the United States in 1987, when the S&P 500 was down 22%. So why was the Nikkei down a lot? Why are people talking about this? And why did it temporarily hurt the U.S. and global markets? Well, Japan, for several decades, has basically had interest rates at 0%. And one of the reasons is because the Japanese economy just isn't growing. It's really sad, too. I love Japan. But the issue is there's 130 million people in Japan today, and there will be 80 million people in Japan in a couple of decades. So it's in secular decline. I really hope they can turn things around. I love Japan. As a result, to try to spur growth, the Japanese government, the Minister of Finance there, has kept interest rates at basically 0 for a long time. And so what a lot of hedge funds have been doing at international investors is they've been borrowing money in yen because the rates are 0 basically. And then they've been investing it in Japanese stocks and US and global stocks. So that's called the yen carry trade. And then about 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Finance in Japan raised rates materially. And it was much more than people expected. As a result, the yen went up versus the US dollar by about 10% within 10 days, which is unheard of. So what happens is when you borrow something, if the price of it goes up, when you give it back, you have to give it back at a higher value and you lose money. Okay, it's like when you short a stock, if the stock goes up, you lose money. And so there were massive margin calls all over the world. And the Japanese economy is massive, and actually the Japanese government is the largest buyer of U.S. debt. So they're a big player in the foreign exchange market as well. And so that's what caused the markets in the U.S. to pull back. Now, the political leader in Japan was just Heisman, and the Japanese government implied they would not raise rates that fast again, which is a good thing. Now, there's two other events that occurred that pushed the U.S. markets down temporarily. And I don't freak out. I actually bought lots of shares on that Monday through limit orders in the United States when the market was down. Those two other issues were, number one, the Federal Reserve a couple Thursdays ago said that they're going to start cutting rates in September. And then the unemployment number, the monthly jobless unemployment number came out on 2 Fridays ago, was worse than expected. So that's two things. 2 data points might make a trend. Number three, or threeth, as my son Andrew used to say, Warren Buffett sold half his stake in Apple. Now, his position in Apple was about 40 to 50% of his fund. He cut it in half. And so a lot of people are starting to worry, my goodness, we have the perfect storm. We have 3 tidal waves. 3 data points make a trend. But things have bounced back nicely since then. Now, in terms of when do you go all in and buy stocks? So I always put my reputation on the line when I say the following, and always do your research first. If the VIX index, okay, the volatility index closes above 70 or 80, that's when you buy more risky stocks. And it's happened a couple of times, and we almost got there 2 Mondays ago. Intraday, the VIX hit 65. My rule is it has to close above 70 or 80 though. It's happened a couple of times, and it usually happens with black swan events or events we really can't forecast. And you can make a killing investing this way. What does that mean? Well, in the fall of 2008, when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working, the VIX went above 70, and the VIX is a measure of anticipated volatility, meaning fear in the market. And Warren Buffett backed up the truck and bought lots of shares in late 2008. He even got a sweetheart of a deal by buying Goldman Sachs preferred shares for next to nothing. He almost rescued the company. Another time when the VIX was above 70, it was actually above 80, was in Q1 of 2020 during the thick of the pandemic. And things were so crazy then. And the price of oil then went to negative 20 or 30 bucks in the futures markets. People were freaking out. And so the VIX went to above 80 at one point. And that's when you buy. So the VIX again 2 Mondays ago spiked to above 65. It did not close above 70 or 80. But if it ever does, just buy stocks. Do your research first, please. Yeah. And you want to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. Always, always. Yeah. And that's a great quote from Warren Buffett. Now, since I'm Canadian, I have to do my weekly Wayne Gretzky quote. So Wayne Gretzky was very successful, not because he skates where the puck is, but rather because he skates where the puck is going to be. And so he was a contrarian, and we have to buy stocks that people are going to like. If you buy stocks that everybody loves already, then there's not that many incremental investors to push those stocks higher. You got to be a contrarian. And you got to be highly unemotional as well. And the most successful entrepreneurs, business people, investors, they're unemotional. Case in point is Elon Musk. In fact, in Q1 of 2020, this is publicly disclosed, Elon Musk bought a ton of shares in Tesla because everybody was freaking out, and he's unemotional. Then he sold those shares in late 2021, 6 weeks before the market peaked in early 22. So you have to be a contrarian. And this is something called behavioral finance. And I think it was a Dick Thaler got a Nobel Prize for this. And he runs a mutual fund out here called Fuller and Taylor. Now, behavioral finance is a great way to invest. What does that mean? Well, using data analysis or simplistic regression analysis using Excel, what you can do is you can look at, in the past, when executives bought or sold shares in their company, how did the stock do 1 year later? And you can find a correlation. This works. And so when I used to work in the hedge fund industry, I used to meet a lot with Bobby Kotick, who was the CEO and founder of Activision, ticker ATVI, which Microsoft was allowed to buy. And I noticed that every time Bobby sold shares, 1 year later, Activision was down a lot and vice versa. And I remember meeting with him one-on-one in a hotel meeting at a conference in Carlsbad. And I asked him, how should we think about the fact that you're selling a lot of shares? And he said, my wife has expensive taste. What do you want me to do? Anyway, he's a funny guy. But behavioral finance is something that can make you a killing if you do it right. Make sure to look at the data, because without data, you have just a bogus thesis. That's it. That won't work. You can backtest all this stuff. And that's what a lot of hedge funds do. Okay, moving on. Next question I've got here is, Majed wrote, good morning, Chris. Do you have any courses that can be used as life coaching? I like how to deal with people, how to talk, how to walk, and what to wear. Yeah, absolutely. So my MBA degree program, one of the components is personal growth. And you can go to harounmba.com, then click on MBA FAQs and scroll down. These are all sold out, by the way, these three here, gold, platinum, and diamond, but silver is available. Yeah. My schedule is full, but my cup overfloweth with optimism. All right, next up, we got George, who's in my gold MBA program. Great to see you. George is going to publish a book this year by December 2nd. So George wrote, Chris, please give us your thoughts on blockchain companies and which industries will adopt this earlier. Thanks. Yeah. So generally speaking, I think, and I've said for many years, that I think that most cryptocurrencies are an absolute scam. I'd be really, really careful investing in cryptos. I publicly disclose which 4 cryptos I've owned forever that I'm never selling. Please do your research first. Those are Bitcoin, Ethereum or Ether, Litecoin, as well as Ripple. But I think that most cryptocurrencies are an absolute scam. If you're interested in learning more about blockchain and the future of cryptos, I would take a look at Ethereum. The Ethereum platform, or the Ethereum blockchain, is pretty advanced to the extent that most NFTs and ICOs, meaning like IPOs, but for cryptos, are done on the Ethereum blockchain, so to speak. Yeah. I'm not an expert when it comes to technology and creating blockchains, but there's a guy named Kirill on Udemy that teaches how to make a blockchain. Maybe you can take one of his courses. Now, if you're going to invest in cryptocurrencies, I don't recommend having more than 5% of your liquid net worth in cryptocurrencies. And don't make any crypto itself more than 0.5% of your liquid net worth. And the reason I say this is they're not regulated by the SEC. They're regulated by the laws of mathematics, or lack thereof. And so when you invest, and this is one of the case studies I do in my MBA program, but when you invest in a stock, by law, investment wankers have to file an S1 document, which lists all the risks, and lawyers help to write these things as well. These things don't exist for cryptocurrencies. You might see an esoteric white paper that's 10 or 15 pages, which is hard to understand. So please always, always, always keep your positions small. Now, one of the reasons why cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin especially, have done well over the past year, a couple of reasons actually. Number one, every 4 years, in order to control Bitcoin inflation, what happens is the reward for mining gets cut in half. And that's called the halving process. Now, the first time that occurred was back in 2012, then 2016, then 20, then 24. And that was a massive positive catalyst before it occurred, because Satoshi, or whoever made Bitcoin, is basically saying, look, inflation's not going to be a big deal because we have this halving process. Another reason why cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, have done exceptionally well over the past year is because of the introduction of the cryptocurrency ETFs. Okay, the Bitcoin ETF, that's a huge deal for 2 reasons. Number one, it's now easier for institutional investors to buy Bitcoin. And back in 2012, 100% of investors in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies were retail investors. Now more than 50% of investors in Bitcoin are institutional investors. It's a huge deal. And ETFs are a great way to invest. And I've got a great analogy. Give me a second. I'm going to get a prop here. So Okay. Hold on a second. All right. Back in 2004. In 2004, the gold ETF was created, ticker GLD. And that was great because I could then buy gold in my portfolio. And in the fall of 2008, gold was my biggest position, ticker GLD. I loved it because before 2004, before the gold ETF was created, I would go downtown in San Francisco and try to buy gold. And at the last second before I bought it, I would always cut my order in half because I wasn't sure if it was real. But the gold ETF is based on real gold. It's backed by a reputable company. And as a result, I feel confident owning it. The same thing when it comes to the Bitcoin ETF. So prior to the Bitcoin ETF being introduced, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, you had to use one of these really esoteric, tough to use a Bitcoin cold storage wallets. This one's made by Ledger Nano. And it's so darn complicated to set these things up that, at the last second, you cut your order in half. Now that you can buy Bitcoin using ETFs, you don't have to cut your order in half anymore. So that's a very positive catalyst, in my humble opinion. Okay. All right. Next question is from Majed, which is, what do you think of corporate finance as a career path? Yeah. So if anybody is confused in terms of what your job should be, and you're younger and you just don't know where to start, always think about starting with what's called an origination job, meaning making the product. Because if you make the product and you hate making the product, hey man, if you know how to make the product, you can sell the product or work or manage people with the product or start a company that reinvents the product. So 3 types of origination roles are as follows. Number 1 is corporate finance, meaning investment banking. If you create an investment banking, basically you're creating the IPO product or the M&A strategy. And if you hate creating that product, meaning origination, corporate finance, investment banking, that's cool because you can move on to sell it or trade it or invest in it, etc. The second of 3 origination jobs you can consider getting when you're younger is consulting. So if you work at a great consulting firm like McKinsey, which rejected me, if you work at a consulting firm, what you do is you create the corporate strategy for a company, your clients. You help your clients change to be more successful. And if you hate that, that's cool. You know how to make it, so you can move on and sell the product or manage the product or whatever. And the third and final origination job is technology. So at Google, for example, if you're a programmer, right, you're at the top of the food chain there. And if you don't enjoy programming, meaning originating or creating the product, that's cool. You can move on to selling the product or doing marketing on the product, operations on the product, etc. So if you're not sure what to do, then it's all good to start an origination role. Follow-up question here is, do investment banks have a wealth management department? Yes, all the big ones do. And wealth management is probably the best job you can get in finance, and I'll explain why. So wealth management, first of all, it's like being a stockbroker for really rich people, and it's called private wealth management, or PWM. And the way it works is you get a 1% fee on the money you manage. So if you manage $1 billion, that's a $10 million fee every year. The reason I say it's a great job is because if you work in wealth management, meaning PWM, at a firm like Goldman or B of A, you can leave and take your clients with you in many cases. You can't do that in other finance roles. And what we're going to see, it's sad to say, but we're going to see the biggest generational transfer of wealth in the next couple of decades as the baby boomers move on. And so I think that is the mother of all catalysts for a career in private wealth management. Yeah. You have to be good at sales, though, which you can learn, and I can teach you. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, this week has been the toughest. I was sad, maybe alone, and a bit depressed and confused on one side. I'm sorry to hear that. You wrote, I thought of going for a scholarship to university in the United States because my GPA is 4 and also my work and the tools I made. But then I'm afraid I may lose 4 years of my life because They won't let me work from campus anywhere. I was sad to the fact that to be in a foreign country like America for 4 years, then thought of your MBA, which is much more helpful and easy and online. Please guide me. I'm alone now, and I may be depressed. Yeah. I'm so sorry you're feeling that way, and I'll certainly keep you in my prayers. So the way that I beat depression, okay, and I've had to deal with this my whole life. A couple things. When I'm not doing these webcasts, I'm exercising all day long, okay? And I recommend everybody do what I'm about to do right here, okay? So if you treat this right, this works gooder. So what I do is I have a treadmill, okay? And I get 20 to 30,000 steps a day. And I have a desk that goes up and down. And this gets me into a peak mental state and helps me think better, speak quicker, and all that good stuff. And the reason I do this is so that I'm number one, happier, and number two, much more productive. And when I was younger in school, I remember the first hour of every day, I'm already thinking faster, man. The first hour of every day, I was very productive. Then at night, I'd try to study, and 10 hours sucked and wasn't as productive as 1 hour in the morning. And I realized that if you walk all day like I'm doing here, and I don't have a chair that I sit down in my office, but if you walk all day, your brain is tricked into thinking you just woke up and you're getting to a great mood. Now, I'm going to show you the treadmill, and nobody is ever going to sponsor any of my videos. I get millions of offers. I'll never do it, but I'm going to show you where to get this treadmill. So what you do, and transparency builds trust. I'm going to go here to my orders. I ordered these this morning, cookies. So the treadmill I use it's dirt cheap. The price keeps coming down, and this is the best investment you'll ever make. Don't buy my courses. Buy this instead, okay? All right, so here it is here, okay? It's $129. It works great. I push this thing to the max. Get a stand-up desk as well. If you order from Amazon, you get 30-day free money-back guarantee, all that crap. But just get it. And you can put it under your couch as well, just to put it out of the way if you want to. I promise you that this works exceptionally well. Another thing you can do if you feel depressed, and the hardest thing about exercising is actually getting to the gym. Go to the gym. Or do, Manas, right now what I want you to do, brother, and I say this because I love you and I care. I want you to get down on your hands and knees right now and do 10 push-ups, then take a 30-second break. Then 10 more push-ups and a 30-second break. Rinse, lather, repeat. You're going to kick off endorphins in your mind. Dopamine's going to kick in. You're going to feel it like $1 million. Yeah. Another thing I do is weights, which helps me. But I also consume a lot of water as well. We are like 80% water. This helps as well with your mood. Take 1 day off a week, though, because the basis of a lot of great religions, there's 10 rules. One of them is to take 1 day off a week. You know, for me, it's Sunday. It's my day to go to church, spend time with Christine and my boys. For my other students, it's Saturdays or Fridays. Take 1 day off a week or you will burn out. I promise you. I promise you. And you won't be happy. Yeah. And then you can also practice gratitude. So what I do before I go to bed every day is I always thank God for 10 things in this order. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, Christine, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, the memory of my sister, Katie, Elizabeth, and all of you, my students. That's 10 things. So if you practice gratitude every day, you will be in a peak mental state. And whatever religion people follow, I recommend reading a passage of your religion before you go to bed every day, which is what I do. Yeah. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Start exercising a lot. And you can always go and talk to your doctor as well and just say, is there anything I can do to fix my moods, etc. And they might tell you about exercise and other stuff. Yeah. In terms of you wanting to come to the United States for school or work, whatever it is, before you come up with a goal, and this goes to everybody, I'll answer this in a generic way. Before you come up with a goal and how to achieve that goal, I always want you to ask yourself one question, which is why? Why do you have that goal in mind? What's the reason? And if the sole reason is to accumulate as much money as possible, you're never going to be happy. If you chase money, you lose your money and your dreams and your health. if you chase your dreams and you don't give a darn about what people think of you, and you don't mind failing, something wonderful happens. Your dreams will come true and the money will follow accidentally. It always does. You just have to find your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être. And if there's anybody watching this webcast, and I don't care how old you are, and you're not sure what your purpose is in life yet, or your career, I want you to think about it this way. Imagine I'm giving you 30 days off. And so for the next 30 days, you can't work, you can't go to school, and you cannot travel. What are you going to do with your time? And I don't care what your answer is, because that is what your career should be. And don't listen to anybody. Yeah. All right. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And as Les Brown said, someone else's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Yeah. But I'm so sorry you're going through this, Manas. I'm with you. I'll keep you in my prayers as always, buddy. Yeah. But it doesn't sound like you're going to be happy if you come to the United States. So I'd always think about why you want that first. Yeah. And regardless of what decision you make, I'm here to help you. Yeah. All right. Next up, Amr wrote here, I have 2 requests. Sure. Can you please explain how to calculate the total addressable market? And then number 2. Yeah. Okay. So before ever investing in a company or a market, you want to invest only in a company that is in a massive market. Otherwise, what's the point? Because if that company gets 90% share, which would never happen, that's a tiny market, it's not going to move the needles. In fact, there's a great venture capital firm called Kleiner Perkins that invested in Google and Amazon when they were private. And I partnered with them in the past when I worked in venture capital. And a buddy of mine that worked there said this. They never, his name was Paul Ye, Y-E-H, last name, good guy. Paul told me this. They usually don't invest in companies unless the size of the total addressable market is $20 billion or more. And the reason is because in the highly unlikely event that that company gets 5% share of a $20 billion market, then that means $1 billion in annual revenue. Now, how do you calculate the total addressable market? A couple of things you can do. Number one, 2 things. Number one, what you can do is you can search for McKinsey, which is a great consulting firm, and then total addressable market and the market name. Or just generally speaking, TAM, total addressable market, and the market name. And you can get a reputable report from a company like McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group or Bain, etc. They'll provide you those statistics. The second way to calculate the size of a market is to get the biggest 25 companies in a given market and make sure they're publicly traded and add up the annual revenue for all 25 companies. And that's a good enough proxy for the size of the total addressable market, because in sectors like tech, for example, it's usually just a handful of companies that tend to dominate. Yeah. And I know there are people out there thinking, Chris, but what if the market doesn't exist yet? It does. You just have to think about it differently. What does that mean? Well, when Uber, before the company was founded, when Travis was writing the business plan and trying to raise capital, there really was no market for it. But there was a traditional taxi medallion market that was massive. So you're always looking to interrupt a current business or current industry. Okay. All right. And Manas, I worry about you, brother. Let me know if you have any additional questions based on the answers I just provided for you, dude. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and then Amr wrote, can you please add Bitcoin ATM and tokenomics topics to your crypto course? Yeah, I updated the pricing and whatnot and other stuff. I think it was last year. Yeah. But whenever I make a course, I always try to future-proof it to the extent that all I have to do is update the lower thirds and the numbers on the screen. Yeah. But the methodology for investing will never change. And what I teach people in my cryptocurrency course, which is part of my MBA, is I teach you how to create an S1 document for a crypto. Right, because crypto is not regulated by the SEC. Okay, let me move on. Okay, next up, Finn Eco wrote, I'm currently studying for something similar to a CPA for India called a CA. And I'm also preparing for the CFA, finance stuff, and FRM. I want to get into a hedge fund space. Should I do more of this? No. Stick to the CFA if you want, but that's still going to take you 3 years to complete. The way to get into the hedge fund market is to network like crazy. And you can rewind today's webcast near the beginning. I talked about how to set up informational meetings. Now, you'll never see an advertisement, hardly ever. Rarely you'll see an advertisement for a hedge fund that's hiring. It's usually word of mouth. And so what you have to do is you got to set up a ton of informational meetings. And in my MBA degree program, I provide you with lots of templates and one-page write-ups on how to impress people that work in any company by bringing templates to your interviews. And so on the back of your resume can be a one-page stock write-up, and you provide that to the person you're meeting with as part of your informational meeting. And I can go into more detail about that if you want me to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, OpenAI has requested us to not fall in love with AI and voices. Isn't it too much because people are falling for AI, artificial, and fake things? Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. So I played this amazing game called Detroit Become Human, which everybody should play. It's made by Quantic Dream. And basically what you're doing in that game is you're an android. And in between the cutscenes, thousands of people are playing online at the same time. You're asked questions. And one question that I was asked was, would you date an android in the future? I said no, but thousands of people said yes. In fact, 75% of people that were playing said yes. So it's going to be an issue one day. Absolutely. And I even see it on my TikTok feed. I have my own TikTok channel as well if you guys want to check it out, whatever. But on TikTok, I get tons and tons of videos that are women that are not real, that are AI based. And yeah, I do click on them and watch it because I'm curious about the technology. But it's going to be a massive issue in the future. In fact, I think for everybody in this call, you have 5 to 10 years to start creating and putting your flag in the sand, so to speak, your own YouTube content and social media content. If you don't do it in the next 5 to 10 years, it's too late. And the reason I say that is because within 5 to 10 years, I think that some of the bigger YouTube celebrities and actors and actresses are going to be AI based. It's much more cost effective for Hollywood studios to do this. And that's why Tyler Perry, who's a billionaire, great producer, he has great movies. He just stopped working on a $1 billion CapEx expansion of one of his Hollywood studios, actually based in Atlanta, because he saw Sora. And Sora, we know, is part of OpenAI. You can do a search on it right now. And I can't tell the difference anymore between AI-created people and real people. And so I think you have 5 to 10 years before AGI becomes a reality, meaning artificial general intelligence. So I think everybody needs to start creating YouTube content before it's too late. Yeah, establish your brand right now. Yeah. And when you do it, when you make these YouTube videos or social media videos, please don't try to be perfect. If you try to be perfect in your life, you'll never be successful. You'll never reach full potential because, as Salvador Dali said, if you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it. Just get in the traffic, man. Be consistent. Put something out there. Do it on a weekly basis if you can. And if you want inspiration, you can look at the older YouTube videos from people like Marquise Brownlee, who I love, or Gary Vaynerchuk. The quality wasn't that good, but they didn't care. And you all have to be the same way as well. You got to tell yourself, I don't care what people think of me. Yeah. Take a risk. Okay. Hey, Kevin, how are you? Okay. And good morning, Lighter from Montreal. Je veux faire le grasse matinée. Great to see you. Oh, my goodness, Michael, who goes by the Aqua Hood. He's based in Wales. Great to see you. It's been a couple of years, man. And I remember, and I never forget my students, but Michael mentioned a couple of years ago that he grew up with Sacha Baron Cohen in Wales or in England, yeah. And he told me that Sacha Baron Cohen, the Borat dude, was so generous growing up that Sacha Baron Cohen's mother had to always come to Michael's house and ask for Sacha's toys back because he gave them all away. But Michael wrote, sorry to hear about the news about your little sister, Chris. Thank you. May she rest in peace, and thank you for that. God bless you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, she's in a better place. She died from lupus, and I think 90% of people have lupus in the world are women, and yeah, a lot of them pass away young. She was 45. Yeah, but she was in pain. She had it for 15 years. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Tesla Vision wrote, yes, I own an insurance agency and I'm no longer involved and I'm in the middle of a divorce. Sorry to hear that. That's the reason why I'm selling it. Should I go about telling the firm I've been... Okay. This is something where I recommend getting a lawyer. And if anybody wants to get access to a lawyer, just go to LegalZoom.com. You can talk to a lawyer on the cheap. Quick side note, because I just went through this with my little sister. Please make sure everybody has a will and a trust as well. A will basically means if you, God forbid, you pass away, who gets your stuff? And a trust basically means whoever gets your stuff doesn't pay as much taxes. And it's not that hard to do. All you do is you go to LegalZoom.com and get a wills and estate lawyer. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then Majed wrote, hey, Chris, will Canada's economy decline and fall? So Canada is a much more conservative economy. There's 6 banks. It's highly regulated. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't see a material pullback in the Canadian economy relative to the U.S. In the fall of 2008. Canada's economy is very much tied to the U.S. economy and also to the price of commodities, right? Given the fact, retail sales for the month of July just came out an hour ago. And they were up 1% year over year. And that's a big deal because the market was expecting a 0.4% increase. So we are having a soft landing. And I think the Federal Reserve, and I will criticize governments a lot, but I think the Federal Reserve did a superb job of raising rates to stop inflation. So I'm more of an... All right, we're having streaming issues, so I'm going to switch over to... Okay. All right, I switched over to Starlink, if the connection is good enough or not. This is my backup plan, because 1 second, please. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I'll try again. 1 second. Fix this. Sorry, everybody. All right, I think we're back. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, guys, sorry about that. Very frustrating, but I have backup for a reason. Hopefully it's working. All right, my apologies. And I tried to call Comcast, for customer service, and I can't get through to a human being. I've tried everything. It drove me cray-cray. All right, we're good. I got back up here. Okay, moving on. Give me 1 second to get back on track here. Thanks. All right. Next up, Rose, who was in my first MBA class back in 2019. Rose wrote here, Chris, hope all is well. Sorry to hear the sad news. Thank you. And then you wrote, I want to let you know the Excel skills you taught us in the MBA program helped me create an Excel-based management system for the company I work for, and they're going to be implementing it corporate-wide. Awesome. That makes me happy. And then you wrote, thanks so much. I feel you've really taught us so many useful skills that I didn't know I would need to use. Awesome. Awesome. It's great to hear. Great to hear. Thank you. Good to see you as well. And Rose is based in the great state of Virginia as well. Yeah. That was frustrating, man, with that internet backup thing there. But that's why I have Starlink, just in case. Yeah. Only the paranoid survive, as Dr. Andy Grove said. All right. Great to see you, Rose. All right. Next up, Peter wrote, hey, Chris, I was watching a Shark Tank clip. The shark asked the pitcher how much of their own money they've invested in the proposal. I know you say always use OPM. How would you have responded? I would have said this. I would have said, I've invested a lot of my own money, and I've also been able to successfully raise capital from high net worth investors that also invested in these other companies. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, and whenever you watch, and I do recommend using OPM, other people's money. Yeah, and don't ever get a bank loan, because banks are chicken, man. You miss one bank payment, they can take everything. Always raise money from other people, and raise money from high net worth investors initially, please, because the sales cycle is quite short. If you go to venture capital firms or big institutions to try to raise money from them, you're wasting your time. Why? Because at these big institutional investment firms, they have these analysts, and these analysts that allocate capital, their job is to take 3 meetings a day for 750 or for 250 days a year they work. That's 750 meetings. And so you essentially become a check mark, and that's it. Don't waste your time. Go to high net worth investors. And if you want to learn, how to network to raise capital, get a job or whatever, you can always go to my website and then scroll down here to the bottom and then just download this book for free. That's HarounMBA.com. Okay. Enough of my propaganda. Let me get back to answering your questions, which is why we're here. And by the way, when you watch Shark Tank, Shark Tank, it's not as realistic as you think. Now, if you take the amount of money that Mark Cuban and others invested in these companies, Shark Tank-based companies, they haven't made money. They publicly disclose that. And I've known people that have gone on Shark Tank as well. And although you're watching it, it looks like somebody is pitching for like 5 or 10 minutes. The reality is they pitch for between 1 and 2 hours. And then in post-edit, the editors of Shark Tank, they'll get the most interesting moments to put them on the air. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then Aviation wrote, no Verizon Fios in your area. No, there's nothing. There's nothing. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I live in the technology capital of the world, and internet sucks here. Okay. Oh, yeah. Great to see you. Yeah, I graduated from my gold MBA. I think it was last year. Great to see you. You wrote, is it better to max out a Roth IRA before a 401k? Yeah. So with a 401k, the way it works is you put money in, it goes up in value, hopefully longer term. Then you take it out and pay taxes. A Roth IRA is different. A Roth IRA is you pay taxes first, then you put the money in, and it grows, and then you take it out and do not pay taxes. Yeah. So not everybody can use a Roth IRA. What I recommend doing is talk to your accountant first. Now, why would you do a Roth IRA and not a 401k? Well, if you think that your tax rate is going to be way, way higher in the future than it is today, and it's controversial, but Peter Thiel, who is the very first investor in Facebook, and he also invested in Palantir and other companies, what he apparently did was he put shares of, I think it was Facebook and Palantir, in his Roth IRA. He put in $6,000 worth. And and he paid taxes first. That $6,000 is now worth close to $10 billion. Yeah. But there are a lot of limitations. Like you can't have controlling interest in a company. Talk to your accountant first. And please don't, anybody in this webcast, do your own taxes. Don't. Always hire an accountant. Doing your own taxes is like doing surgery on yourself. Yeah. Tax code changes all the time. And I promise you, you will all break even and make money and recoup the costs of what it cost you for the accountant. There's so many write-offs that you don't know about. Yeah. And again, the tax code changes all the time. Okay. Next up, Connie, who earlier on in today's webcast asked about moving into a sales role, meaning selling insurance. Connie wrote, Chris, thank you so much for your nice suggestions. You're most welcome. I want to take your Silver MBA course. I just won't have enough time to commit to it right now. Can I take the Silver MBA according to my own schedule? Yeah, absolutely. So the way my programs work, the Silver program especially, is this is your MBA on your own terms, right? So just go here to harounmba.com, click here on MBA FAQs, and everything I sell has got a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. But what you can do is you can do payment plans as well. You can watch it on any device. It's all pre-recorded. Yeah. I think there's close to 500 hours now of content, something like that. Yeah. All right. Okay, cool. Okay. And then Rose wrote, did I miss any update on Kemi's school? How's the center in Rwanda doing? Everything is great. So the school in Rwanda, as many of you know, and the profits from what I do, a lot of them goes to scholarships, right? A lot goes to scholarships, and a smaller amount goes towards building schools. And I'm going to be in Kenya, actually, first week of October to build a school there. And then Nigeria is next year. And Kemi and her adorable son and daughter and her husband, Toby, came to my parents' house. And I visited with them a couple weeks ago. So great to meet them. But let me show you here. Okay. So if you go to Project Magoo, yeah. And a lot of people offer for donations. It's okay. You don't have to. I'm covering it all myself. Thank you. But we built one in Rwanda, as you can see here. That's my son, Matthew. There's a school on the inside. It's going well. And there's Vital, one of my amazing students. The next one I'm building, as I mentioned, is going to be in Kenya. I'm going there the first week of October. It's actually a 6-hour drive from the Nairobi airport. So yeah, if I can get high speed there, probably not. But if I can, I'll do the weekly webcast from there. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Letter YouTube wrote, hey, Chris, I love the office hours. Thank you. And I'm so sorry about that bandwidth issue I had, but I had backup. Yeah, which sort of worked. And then you wrote, I want to ask, how does one know what information is currently factored into the price of a stock, such as a piece of news, etc.? Thank you. Yeah. So what I always say is, if a stock doesn't go up on multiple positive news releases, then all that news is priced in. Similarly, if a stock does not go down on a lot of negative news, then all the bad news is priced in. And when I used to be short companies, which is the opposite of owning a stock, when I used to be short companies, if a company did not go down on really bad news, I'd cover my short because all the negative news was priced in. Similarly, if you invest in a stock that just won't go up with all this positive news, then it's probably over-owned. Okay. And then Manas wrote here, and this is a comedy of errors, but my mouse just stopped working. That's okay. I've got electricity here. We're good to go. And I have a backup generator as well. Okay. Yay, reconnected. All right. So Manas wrote, the second largest crypto company in India went under. Hackers took away $250 million. Yeah. Yeah. That's terrible. Yeah. And I know you mentioned before, there's tons of government restrictions in India. And that's why I always say, and I say it with love in my heart, man, I please, hi there, please don't put more than 5% of your net worth into cryptos, and no more than 0.5% in any one particular crypto. Yeah. And then Short Fridays wrote, I just bought calls at a $14 strike on the VIX expiration of mid-November. Very cool. Very cool. And if you guys are going to transact in options, don't underwrite them, meaning don't sell them. You can buy them if you want only. Buy calls, buy puts. Because the most you'll lose when you buy a call or buy a put is whatever you invested. If you underwrite them, meaning you sell them to others, you can lose 10x if you get what's called randomly assigned. And I can talk about that in more details if you want to. Yeah. And for those of you in my MBA degree program, if you go to FA44, I have a 30-hour elective on options. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, Class 4. Yeah. And anybody that's purchased any of my MBA programs, the very last lecture is where you get all the electives, which you'll get for free forever. This October, I'm publishing a real estate elective exclusively for my MBA students as well. Yeah. Okay. And then Rose wrote, if you ever need anything from me, Chris, please feel free to reach out, whether it's designing the yearbook or anything else. I'm glad to help if I can. Thank you and God bless you. Rose was the editor of our first year's yearbook, my first year's MBA class back in 2019. She did a great job, and I have 2 copies. Thank you. And I still have the shirt that I bought from you for the charity you and your friend created to build schools in Africa. And I wore that one webcast too. I missed you. I hope you're doing well. Okay. All right, next up, Martin Communications wrote, crypto is so enticing, but isn't it just another fiat currency where the government will take control of it, as it has begun already, and therefore will cause it to lose its value like the dollar? Yeah. It all depends. It depends on the algorithm. Like the way that Bitcoin was created, it was created so that you'd never have the type of inflation you see with fiat, meaning paper-based currencies. In fact, by the year 2140, there will not be more than 21 million Bitcoin in existence. So it all depends on the cryptocurrency. Yeah. But just because of a lack of disclosure in a lot of these things, from a risk management perspective, as I talked about earlier, I recommend if you're going to invest in cryptos, make it a small percent of your net worth, please. Yeah. And if anybody's ever contacted by somebody with my name asking you to invest in cryptos on any social media platform, you know that's not me. And I've had issues with that in the past. Yeah. Okay. And then Martin wrote, also, thank you for you. Thank you. We need more men like you. God bless you and yours. Thanks. God bless you more. Thank you. And then speaking of spirituality, next up we have Holy Moly, who wrote, hi, Chris. Hey, is it a red flag for a company to have a very high EV to EBITDA ratio, like 80? Yeah. So the best way to think of EV to EBITDA is just think of it as a different way of PE. And so whenever you look at a formula for the rest of your lives, I always want you to think of the denominator as being the number 1. So a PE of 80, for example, means for every $1 in earnings per share on the denominator, investors are paying $80. Now, is that too high for an EV/EBITDA of 80? It all depends. Maybe not. It depends on the growth. And I never value companies based on earnings or cash flow today. I value it based on earnings or cash flow in 5 or 10 years. And that's how I come up with my target prices longer term. And the way I do it is this. So the S&P 500 historically has a PE of very roughly 15 times. And the S&P 500 historically has earnings growth rate on average roughly of 15%. So if you take a 15 times PE divided by 15%, that's 1. If a company in the S&P has earnings growing at 20%, then it will probably trade at more than 15 times. Maybe it'll trade at 20 times. If a company has earnings growing at 10%, it won't trade at 15 times earnings. It'll probably trade at 10 times. And I'm oversimplifying this. And here's the buildup. So if I forecast earnings, and in my model, I forecast that earnings are going to be $1 in year 5. And if between year 4 and year 5, that earnings growth is 20%, then in 5 years, my target price on that stock is going to be $20 or 20 times a buck. That's how I think about valuation. And you have to think long-term like that, always. Yeah. All right. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. All right, next up, Manas wrote, absolutely, I'm grateful for you all. And to you, I'm grateful for the fact I'm alive and watching this, feeling this way. I love you, man. I love you. And I love seeing you every week on this call, Manas. And you've been with me forever. I think since, week 50 or something. We're in week 284. And I want you to be with me forever, too. And you inspire me. And I still have your book that you wrote. And I know I've never talked to you. We've never Zoomed. I've never met you in person. But I bought that book you wrote years ago called Bonds Before Business. And I have it on my bookshelf in my prop room. And you inspire me. And I can't wait to see you every week. And I love every question you ask. And I love you. Okay. And then Holy Moly wrote, will you tell us when you start using your AV avatar on YouTube weekly live streaming? Yeah, this is actually an avatar. This is not Chris. Chris is really old and pathetic. So this is actually an avatar. Yeah, you think Chris can wear suits like this? Yeah. I'll show you. I'll prove to you it's not Chris, and this is an avatar. See my thumb right here? Right here. Okay, my thumb. See if I can do this the right way. Right here, my thumb. I'm going to take my thumb off. Do you see that? My thumb. I'm taking my thumb off. I just took it off. And we know that, when you use Sora, that, hands are never perfect. Yeah. Okay. All right. I lost a bunch of people there with my awful dad humor. That was a joke, obviously. And Manas, if I ever meet you in real life, I'm a tiny man. Okay. Yeah. No, in terms of the avatar. So there's a high profile tech company in the Bay Area, and I signed an NDA. They created it already. I've had a conversation with me. Just the audio version, and it sounded just like me. It was scary good. Scary good. Yeah. But I'll let y'all know when it comes out. But I always believe in disrupting yourself and your own business before the marketplace does. And that's what Reed Hastings did. He's the brilliant CEO and founder. He was the CEO of Netflix. He disrupted his own business model by getting rid of mailing in DVDs to your house. That's how we say it in Canada, house. And he started the streaming business. And people thought he was cray-cray for doing it, but it was genius. And so I always believe in disrupting myself and my own business model first before the marketplace does it. Yeah. And I'm so bullish on AI that I think the average return in the S&P 500 over the next 20 years is going to be between 15 and 20%. Now, the market will not be up every year. That much I promise you. But a lot of companies, what they're going to be doing, and they're already doing, is they are hiring fewer people and they're using AI to cut expenses. So we're in phase 1 right now. Phase 1 is cutting expenses with AI. Phase 2 is going to be growing revenue with AI, which we haven't really seen yet, but it's coming. Yeah. And Jensen Huang, who's the brilliant, inspirational founder and CEO of NVIDIA, he recently gave a presentation and he advised that students don't study computer science anymore. Strange, I know. He said, maybe you don't need to program in the future because AI will do it for us. So he said, instead study liberal arts, because liberal arts helps you think creatively. In fact, Steve Jobs, God bless him, used to always say that Apple is at the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. And by studying liberal arts, you think more creatively. It's painful because you got to read a lot of stuff like art history, which I took as a bird course in undergrad because it was easy and because there's lots of women that I got to meet that were smarter than me. Oh my God, I talk too much. I'm going to shut up now. But Jensen Huang also said that he thinks, this is his opinion, that the American education system is going to surpass the rest of the world. And the reason he said that is because in the United States, when you start university undergrad, quite often you don't choose your major until the third and sometimes fourth year. And so you're kind of forced to study liberal arts first. Yeah. Okay. I had 13 hours of class a week when I was an undergrad. And for some reason, I couldn't find time to go to classes. My time management was awful. Yeah. I had too much fun. I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. My jokes are so cheesy, it goes well with this used car salesman jacket here, eh? Okay. Laugh at me, not with me. Okay. All right, next up, I've got XY Squared. Wrote, what does it mean when companies pay a special dividend of $5 a share or more? Yeah. So this happened with Microsoft back, I think it was in the fall of 2003. So what happens is companies will have a massive cash balance, and investors try to convince the company to issue a dividend, like a quarterly dividend. And back then, Microsoft wasn't ready to concede to becoming a value investment instead of a growth stock. So they had a lot of cash, investors voted, and they did a special dividend. I think it was like $10 a share. And you'll see in the chart of Microsoft in the fall of, I think, 2003, the stock dropped massively in one day from like 33 to 30 or something because of that one-time special dividend. Yeah. And if you ever see a high dividend yield on a company and you want to invest and it seems too high, it is too high for two reasons. Number one, the data you see online is wrong, and you have to go to the filings at sec.gov to really research it. Or number two, the market is saying, I don't believe this dividend is sustainable. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Nicholas wrote, just an observation, Chris. Sure. Talking about AI and deepfake, I've been seeing commercials on my Instagram feed from people I follow and can't even tell if what I'm seeing is real or fake. Yeah. And I saw one like about a year ago, actually on TikTok, of Warren Buffett saying invest in a crypto. And obviously it was not Warren Buffett. And I'm starting to see more and more of that in TikTok now, especially with Elon Musk. And the way you can tell it's fake is if there's no comments, no likes, etc. Yeah, on TikTok at least. Yeah. But it is scary, especially in an election year. Yeah. And I can't wait to watch the debates. And Saturday Night Live. All right. Next up, Tiz Louise wrote, hey, Chris, please explain why you think there will be a soft landing, and do you see possible seasonal drawdown in the U.S. markets in September? Yeah. Yeah. So for those who are not familiar, a soft landing, and this is just me buying time to think of how I'm going to answer this. Just kidding. A soft landing means the economy does not go into free fall. It means when the government raises interest rates, the economy is still growing. That's a soft landing, in my opinion. And the economy is still growing. Now, the definition of a recession is when you have two consecutive quarters of GDP going down. GDP is like revenue for a country. And I don't think we're going to see that. Yeah. And based on the data points I see, things are not as bad as you think. And as I mentioned earlier, this morning, pre-market, the July retail sales numbers came out at 1% growth year over year, above expectation of 0.4%. And weekly jobless claims were better than expected. I think things are better than we think. And I think people don't understand that AI is going to help corporate profits big time. Yeah. In the long run. Yeah. In terms of a drawdown in the U.S. markets in September, I don't know. Like, nobody knows. And I remember I used to work at a hedge fund called Pequot. And Art Sandberg, God bless me, he passed away from pancreatic cancer. I remember it was 2007, and we were all pitching shorts to him. And we were saying, well, we should short Lennar, ticker LEN, and KBH, the home builders, because of, they're overbuilding. And he stopped us, and he said, son, I've been around long enough to know never to stand in the way of insanity. Markets peak, markets trough. You can't call it. It's too hard. And there's a very famous old saying, which is, the market can stay irrational longer than I can stay solvent. So we don't know. And that's why day trading is not a good profession. Because every month has 20 weekdays, meaning 20 days the markets are open, And stocks go up and down for random reasons. We just don't know. Yeah. And what would cause a crash is usually, something that's a black swan. And a black swan, great book by Nicholas Taleb. It basically means something you can't forecast, like COVID or 9/11. Yeah. And I want us to all be very long-term focused. And everybody in this call, most people, have sold a stock because you panicked and it's way higher now. We can't be like that. We have to be long-term focused. Warren Buffett said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. And pull up the chart of any stock that you've liked for a long time or any market like the S&P. It looks like this, okay? And you got to tell yourself, I don't know the path, but I know the destination after you do your research. And don't panic. And that's why so many of us that own our houses or apartments have made a lot of money on it. Why? Because we're stockholders. We can't sell. And that's a good thing. Because if we could panic sell our houses, we would all be worth a lot less money than we are today. And again, my complete real estate elective is coming out this October. I'm going to teach you how to invest, not just to buy your primary home or apartment, but more importantly, how to invest in residential real estate as an investment vehicle and also commercial. And my humble goal for all of you, for my MBA students, is that in 10 to 20 years from today, you're making more money from your rental real estate properties than you are from your salary at your company. Yeah. All right. But I'm not going to talk about real estate in more detail today because I'm going to probably talk about it too much in October. Yeah. All right. Next up, Tiz Louise wrote, hey, Chris. Okay. I just read that one. That was a senior moment. All right. Next up, Holy Moly wrote, is it realistic to hope to make a decent living by investing in stock markets as a full-time job? No. Unless you're managing other people's money. And the reason I say that is if you manage other people's money and you raise enough money, then you can take a management fee on an annual basis. So the way that hedge funds work is they charge 2 and 20. What that means is they get a 2% on average, 2% annual fee on the money they manage, and a 20% incentive on the profits. So for example, let's say that you manage $100 million. That means every year you get $2 million, that's 2% management fee. And let's say that that $100 million doubled. So your profit is $100 million. You only keep 20% of that because your investors get the other 80%. So that's 20 million bucks. Yeah. But my goal is for all of you to be able to save enough money so that by the time you retire, if you ever want to retire, I'm never going to retire, I hope, you can live off of it. And if all you did was this, if all you did was you maxed out your 401k, what is it, around 23 grand? And that's a lot of money. We can't do it every year, especially when we're younger, I get it. But if all you did was you maxed out your 401k every year, and you put that money into the S&P 500, ticker VOO, then in 20 years, you'd have over $1 million. Almost guaranteed. Tax-free. Of course, when you sell it, you pay tax. If your spouse did it, now you have over 2 million bucks. If you maxed out your educational savings account, which is about 15K for each kid, then by the time they're 18, that's 700 grand per kid. So right there, there's over $4 million. And we're not even talking about the appreciation you got in your house. And yes, I know it's hard to save money every year. I get it. But as Warren Buffett said, I want you to spend what is left after saving instead of saving what is left after spending. How do you do that? Well, you live below your means and you have money taken out of every single paycheck and put into your retirement account. Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. And again, I know we can't do it every single year. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm surprised there's so many people on this call considering my failure earlier with the bandwidth issue. Yeah. Okay. But Starlink, I guess, works. It's a backup, I hope. Okay. Next up, Reggie Montes. First time I see you on the call. Hope you join us again. Welcome. Wrote, what do you think of proposing to start a new area or section of an existing business of which you're an employee instead of starting a new business? Yeah. So failing to plan is plan to fail. And regardless of whether you work for yourself or somebody else, you have to write a business plan, which I teach about in my MBA degree program. If you don't write a full business plan first before launching a company yourself, meaning your own company, you can lose everything. You can lose your wealth, your health, your relationships, etc. And so in my MBA program, in the third semester, we have what's called a venture capital boot camp. And as part of the VC boot camp, I provide you with an incredible template to help you write your own business plan. Yeah. Oof. In terms of doing it at a company you work at, obviously it's lower risk, but make sure you're going to get compensated. And what happens in a lot of companies is when a founder, like I never invest in tech companies for the most part when founders leave. Because when the founders leave, bureaucracy sets in and innovation dies. And what happens is this in big companies. You're climbing the corporate ladder, right? And your goal is to be CEO or senior vice president, whatever, because you're going to make more money. And as you're climbing that corporate ladder, if you work at a company where the founder is no longer there, you might think to yourself, you know what? I can innovate and create this new product or new department. And if I'm successful, yeah, I'll get a little bit more money. But if I fail, I'm done. And you got to balance the risk reward. Now, that's why a lot of big companies are not that innovative. And executives at these levels that are climbing the ladder, if they want to quit to join another firm, sometimes they think to themselves, okay, what have I learned? Well, the only skill I've learned is how to navigate politics in this company I'm at now. And that's not really a portable skill. Now, obviously, not all companies are like that. But I want you to assess the risk reward first before thinking about launching a company your own on the side or even at a big company. Write a business plan first. Yeah. And there's nothing shameful about failing. If you start a company, it doesn't work because you only have to be writing business one time. Yeah. All right. Oh, goodness, Mark, how are you? Mark always types in all caps like my grandfather. Mark is based in Michigan, and I miss my grandfather and my sister, and they're up there hanging out together. Yeah. So Mark wrote, what's up, bro, and the global MBA gang? Did Warren Buffett hurt the market when he dumped 227 billion shares of Apple? Yeah, he did temporarily. Absolutely. Yeah. It was a trifecta of that, the unwinding of the yen carry trade, and then the fact that the government, the Federal Reserve, is going to be cutting interest rates in September. And a lot of people think, what do they know that we don't know? But I think the Federal Reserve, I think Powell's going to be very conservative about it. I think he'll cut by 25 basis points. Maybe 50, but hopefully 25, and just do it slowly over time. Because if you cut rates by a large amount, you spook the markets. Kind of like what happened in early 2020 when on a Sunday, the Federal Reserve in the United States cut interest rates by 100 basis points, meaning 1%. And the markets went down a lot the following day. Yeah. Market signaling can be a dangerous thing. All right. And then George wrote, Chris, you use Wirecast. What else do you use software-wise? Yeah. So if you're doing a live stream like I'm doing, you can use Wirecast, or you can use something called OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software. Aside from that, software-wise, I don't really use anything fancy on this computer. Up top of my non-production computer, I'm all Apple, right? So I use Final Cut a lot for editing my videos. But aside from that, I don't really have anything too sophisticated. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Rose wrote, what do you think of royalty deals as opposed to giving up equity? Something like offering ownership, say, of $1 per product sale until they recoup their investment, as opposed to giving up ownership. Yeah. I don't mind doing that if somebody else is paying for all the fixed expenses. So, for example, I published a book called Finance Essentials, and McGraw-Hill published it, and they're selling it all over the world at tons of bookstores and stuff. And my royalty is, I don't know if I can publicly disclose it. Actually, I don't care. I think it's about 25%. And then they gave me money up front, and then money once we published as well. I don't mind. Because they had a team of incredible editors going through the book as well. They really worked hard on it, and they're distributing it globally as well in the markets I'd never reach. Yeah. But I think the best gig out there is Udemy. Because with Udemy, yeah, they take a cut of every course they sell of yours, but you still own the content. And regardless, Rose, of what you do, you want to get a lawyer to review all that stuff. Otherwise, you can get Taylor Swifted. And with Taylor Swift, what happened with her was she signed a bad deal initially. And then, the record studio owned a lot of her IP. And then she had to think creatively. Yeah. She's a great business person. Yeah. Okay. Next up, give me 1 second here. Diao wrote, I was a freshman student in college in 2019. Due to difficulties with health and financially, I stopped, and I finally overcame it and saved up enough money. Is it possible for me to pursue a financial career? Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't ever think age is something that can set you back. The average life expectancy today is 26 years longer than it was in the 1950s. So whatever age you are, deduct 26. Yeah, unless you're 26 or under. Yeah. You might not be able to get a job in finance through, traditional on-campus recruiting, but you can certainly network like crazy. And I can help you with that. Yeah. In my courses and stuff I sell. Yeah. Or just do search on the web for free content of mine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Manas wrote, can you please tell us about options assignment and how it works? Yeah. So with options, if you buy a put or you buy a call, when you buy a call, if the stock goes up, you make a lot of money. Stock goes down, you just lose that much. That's it. With a put, if the stock goes up, you lose this. But if it goes down, you make a lot. That's when you buy them. When you underwrite them, kind of like how investment bankers underwrite IPOs. When you underwrite, meaning you create or sell options, which is also referred to as shorting. But when you underwrite or create or sell or short options, what's happening is you're selling to a certain person. And if somebody other than that person buys a similar option from somebody else, and that other person over here decides to get out of that position, you can be randomly assigned to cover that person's position, right, by the options clearinghouse. And some people say it's about a 10% probability of that happening. And if and when that happens, and it will happen to you if you start underwriting options eventually, then it's a sticker shock. You're going to get scared because you might end up, having to cover a massive position and paying that person over here 10x what you invested. Yeah. It sounds nebulous, I know. Okay. All right, next up, Erkin John wrote, good morning, Chris, good morning. I'm deciding to take a master's degree for $10,000 at University of Texas, Austin. Great school. Yeah, that's actually not a bad deal. Huh. It's actually a really good deal. 2-year program, $5,000 a year tuition. Huh. You wrote, if yes, should I take a master's in computer science or AI? In fact, both of them almost share the same classes. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like somebody might say, I'm either going to get an MBA or a master in finance. Well, more people are familiar from a marketability perspective with an MBA, so that makes more sense than a master in finance. Now, I've never heard of a master's in AI, but if there's a master's in computer science or a master's in AI, I probably do the master in computer science just because from a branding perspective, it's more well known. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hari, how are you? It's been a while. Hari wrote, Chris, how are you? I would like to name my book as U2. Nice. Meaning U 2.0. Yeah. Yeah. I'd probably call it, instead of U2, like YOU2, I'd probably call it U 2.0. Otherwise, in the Audible version, people hear U2. From a copyright perspective, it might sound like the band U2. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote, U2 is going to be pronounced as U square, with a subtitle of Double Down Your Career with 75 Insider Tips. How does that sound to you? Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't use the word insider only because it sounds like it could be misconstrued as insider information. So if you ever want that book to be bought by people that are going to work in the financial services industry, or you want big banks to buy in bulk, your book might be a little bit trickier. I'd probably call it U 2.0. And then the subtitle, I'd make it Double Down on Your Career with 75 Crucial Career Tips. Yeah. And so with my first book, so I called it, using numbers is always good in titles from an A/B testing perspective. But I said 101 crucial lessons they don't teach you in business school. Yeah. And what you can do if you want, everybody I recommend doing this, is publish one article every single week on LinkedIn. And then after a year or two, take all those articles and sort them by the ones that got the most views and clicks and comments and put them together in a book. And if you want, what you can do is you can go to my website and download the book template for free. I don't even ask you for your email. It's my website, harounmba.com/ all lowercase write book. So harounmba.com/ write book. And that's the template, yeah, for that 6-inch by 9-inch book. Yeah. But you always want to repurpose all your content as well. That way you can work smarter and not harder. Okay. All right. And then you wrote here, you want to publish your book. It got delayed. I like to publish it without procrastinating. Yeah. Yeah. There's a really good book called How to Stop Procrastinating that I started, but I never finished it. Yeah. That was awful dad humor. I lost a ton of viewers in that one. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay. And I will have to wrap up this call pretty soon. And for those of you in my Silver MBA program, you can always ask me questions at 10 a.m. So every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I do a 1-hour call for my for my Silver students. It's a Zoom call, and you can get access to that by going to the first lecture in the Silver MBA curriculum. Even after you're finished the MBA, you can still join those calls for free forever. Yeah. All right. And then Mark wrote, the founders of Google created a software to track housing prices in real time. I haven't seen that. Interesting. It's hard, though, because housing is very subjective. And the way to value any asset class is based on what the last trade was. So with a house, for example, if you go to Zillow.com, whatever the price was for a house in a certain neighborhood, last transaction will be the price somebody may or may not assign to a similar house. Yeah, housing is very, very illiquid. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, thank you for everything, my mentor. Probably this is my 200th webcast. It's been amazing. Thank you for everything, for being there. And yes, we would meet, as I promise, and we'll eat dosa. Yeah, thank you. I love dosa. Yeah. And then you wrote, thank you for everything. I love you. I love you, God. God bless you and your venture and your family, and all the Haroun Education Ventures family, including me. And thank you for all the emojis. And I love you. And Manas, when I meet you, I'll come to India and we'll go to the best meals I've ever eaten in my life. You're gonna laugh. were at the airports in Mumbai and in Delhi. I went to Punjab Grill and I had dosa, which is the best food ever. And so when I see you, we're going to go to the airport and we're going to have lunch and we're going to have dosa. And when the check comes, the bill comes, I'm immediately going to do this. I have alligator hands. I can't find my wallet. And T-Rex can't do push-ups. Yeah. No, of course I'll pay. I'll buy you and your whole family dosa. And if anybody's not tried dosa, please try it. Like in the United States and in Canada where I grew up, we go to incredible Indian restaurants and have, tandoori chicken, naan bread, and all this amazing stuff. But nobody orders dosa. Like a lot of people don't know about it. You have to order dosa. It's as good as the first time you tried a Krispy Kreme donut fresh out of the oven. Even better. Okay. And Holy wrote, thanks, Scam, for sharing your wisdom with us, sir. My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay, Erkin John wrote, hey, Chris, sometimes I'd wake up unmotivated and lazy. I go for a walk for 1 hour and still less amount. How can I overcome this kind of stuff? Yeah. Couple things. So walking, can release some serotonin, but there's nobody on this webcast that has ever gone to the gym and after working out, you left the gym and told yourself, I wish I didn't work out today. Said nobody ever. So doing heavier weights or push-ups, whatever it is, that can get you immediately into a peak mental state. Yeah. Aside from that, other ways to overcome burnout are to take 1 day off a week. Always. God created the world in 6 days and he rested on the seventh. Of course, he did not have to rest on the seventh, but he wants to let us all know that we can't burn out. And that's why it's the basis of many great religions. So thousands of years ago, our forefathers and foremothers, they knew you take 1 day off a week. You have to, or you'll burn out. And I don't care how much work you have or how much schoolwork. It doesn't matter. If you take off that 1 day per week, the next day you're going to be 3 times as productive. It's an investment and it allows you to reconnect with your family and give this damn thing a rest as well. And many years ago, I was watching National Geographic and there was a gazelle being chased by a cheetah. And what they did was they connected all these monitors to the gazelle. And as the gazelle was running for its life, obviously its heart started working faster. Its immune system shut down. Its reproductive system shut down. And for obvious reasons, right? Like all the blood flow, all the bodily functions were focused on one thing, surviving. We were not meant as humans to feel this way and have stress like this unless we're running for our lives. And so a lot of people that get really stressed out get sick more often because their immune system shuts down like the gazelle. Don't be the gazelle. What also happens is, a lot of people want to conceive. And, it's stressful. I remember, did you get pregnant? We would check. Oh, not yet. Oh, darn it. It's stressful. And a lot of people try to conceive and it's so stressful. And eventually they adopt, which is a beautiful thing. And then there's no stress. Then a month later, they get pregnant. We were not meant to feel stressed like this way in our lives. So I want you all to stop the insanity. I didn't realize this would be this big when I ordered on Amazon. So Dale Carnegie said, our fatigue is often caused not by work, but by worry. And Sir Winston Churchill said, I once met a man on his deathbed who talked about all the worries he had in his life, none of which came true. So Hakuna Matata. Things are never as bad as you think. And think about all the time you spent worrying in your life. And things didn't work out as badly as you thought. So don't worry. And for me, career-wise, I never worry because I tell myself God already knows what's going to happen. And that puts me at ease. Or what you can do is change your perception. Like the Rodin sculpture, I think, therefore I am. How you doing? Don't perceive stress in the way you used to. Change the lens by which you view the world. Every setback you've had is not a crisis, it's an opportunity. And career-wise, you might not understand that right now, but I promise you, many years from now, in the future, you're going to look back and say, thank you, God, for guiding me down this path. Because if it weren't for that frustration, I would not have had this breakthrough to reinvent my life. Okay. And Ergen John, what I also recommend in order to beat procrastination is write your schedule every day the night before. And in my MBA program, I provide this along with a gazillion other templates. So before you go to bed each night, I want you to write tomorrow's and do it on paper. Otherwise, if you copy and paste this in your calendar, you'll forget about it. So every night before you go to bed at like 9 p.m., I want you to write out your schedule for tomorrow. Okay, what am I going to do at 5 a.m., 6, 7, 8, all that stuff? What are my goals? And then at the end of and then carry this around with you. So when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you see is right by your sink, eh? And so put it in your pocket, take it with you all day. And at the end of the day, what you can do is you can score yourself, right? And again, I'm a tiny man. You can score yourself. You can take off 10% for missing this meeting, 10% for not praying, 5% for not exercising, 5% for not eating correctly, etc., 10% for not getting 7 hours of sleep a night, etc. Then what you do is you create tomorrow's schedule today at night. Do this every day of the week except for on weekends, or else you'll drive yourself cray-cray. And this is how you're going to get more done. Because if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. So stay busy. Yeah. That's why it's important, especially when you have kids, keep them busy as well. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Phil. Hey, Phil. Phil Germany from Ohio, works at Raytheon, I think. Yeah. Great to see you. And Phil was my first student to write a book many years ago called Super Students. And it was about chess. But it was very prophetic. It was called Super Students, which I have. So Phil Germany wrote, I've been on these calls for 5 years, and every time I listen, I get inspired and motivated. Thanks for all your efforts. God bless. God bless you more, buddy. Yeah. Always good to see you. Always good to see you. Okay. Next up, Alexander wrote, "Hey Chris, I found your channel a couple days ago. Welcome. Almost done watching all the videos. Great content. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I love your name as well. That's my godson, Alex, has the same name as you, and he interned here actually a couple months ago, and he actually came on the webcast. Yeah, great guy. I love him." Okay. And then Hari wrote, "Thank you so much, Chris. You never miss to bring a smile on us with your old dad jokes. Thank you." The problem, dude, with getting old is the dad jokes get repeated. Like, I keep repeating them. Sometimes I forget, sometimes I don't. Yeah. But also, the good thing about getting older is you forget stuff, eh? So I recently rewatched the entire Sopranos, and I don't remember any of it, and it's awesome. I don't remember any of it. It's great. So when you get older, it's amazing. You get to watch all those old movies again because you forget a boot as well, eh? And y'all know when GTA 6 comes out, and I pre-announced about this many times before. When GTA 6 comes out, I'm not doing these calls for a month or two. Like, I'm going to nerd out. I'm going to play. I'm going to be a badass. Yeah. Yeah. I just hope they don't stereotype Canadians like they did in GTA 5 with Trevor. Okay. Trevor is a mean guy, and Canadians are not like that. Yeah. And I remember there was one scene in it when it was the U.S. Army was making fun of his accent, saying oot and a boot. But I can't talk about that scene. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Nassim. God bless you more. All right. Hari wrote, dosa is also healthy as it is fermented rice batter, which increases our good gut bacteria. I would also like to join you for a dosa meet. For sure, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good to see you. And Hari, I remember Hari, you joined Silver, my Silver MBA years ago, and you networked and you got an internship with the Boston Consulting Group. I think that was you. Yeah. All right. Erkin John wrote, thank you very much, Chris. You're most welcome. By the way, now you're talking about Indian food. There is chutney in San Francisco. You would love it. Location is not great, though. Very cool. Thanks. Yeah. And usually when I go into San Francisco for dinner, which is hardly ever, because my friends here, I always say, let's go anywhere, but not San Francisco. It's dangerous now. But when we go there, like to State Bird and other places, we'll take an Uber there and Uber back. But it's surreal, man, because at night when you're in San Francisco, like all these cars driving around without drivers, it's the weirdest thing. Yeah, the future is now. Okay. And then Erkin John wrote, I do that scheduling every day, and I use your sample. Thank you for that. And I think you're right to take days off. Taking days off makes me feel guilty, and scoring part is a little confusing. Yeah. Let me show you, because you're asking here. I'm going to give you guys a free version to download. Okay, let's go to my website, harounmba.com. Whoops. And then what I'll do is right here, schedule, all lowercase. So harounmba.com/schedule, all lowercase. I don't know why schedule has an H in it. And you can download this. Okay, give me 1 second. Momento, por favor. All right. So this here is an oldie. You can download this now if you want to, right? It's not as advanced as the premium version I have. But what you can do is and this is from years ago when I was making courses on crypto and stuff. So you can put here just goals, right? And then just type whatever you want here. And then just your daily things here. So for me, it was promotional announcements. Did I use LinkedIn, YouTube and stuff? To-dos right here. And then today's accomplishments will be the following, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, you score yourself down here. And it's very subjective. You take off points, obviously. So, if I didn't, go to the gym, I'd take off maybe 10%. If I didn't go for a walk like Steve Jobs used to do every day at 1 p.m. With his best friend, Larry Ellison, for idea generation, I would take off 10%. If I didn't put God first, I'd take off 20%, for example, right? And this is, did I make sure not to surf the web too much? Emailed, get 20,000 steps in, body mass, did I measure it, my weight? Did I wash my face twice? Meals, etc. And I just take off points. And then try to do it as many days in a row as you can. Rinse, lather, repeat. If you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Okay. All right, and I'm going to wrap up this call in a minute. And for those of you in my Silver MBA program, again, go to the very first lecture of your Silver MBA curriculum. And in 9 minutes, meaning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, every Thursday, we do a 1-hour Zoom call. And after you graduate from that MBA program as well, you still join every week for free. It's fun. I don't have a job. I have a passion. And it's a privilege to be able to do what I'm doing. So thank you, everybody. Okay. And then Erkin John wrote, by the way, about 2 weeks ago in a video, you beat the accents battle almost every stand-uppers, including Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah is great. I love that guy. Yeah, and I finished his book called Born a Crime. Great book. I loved it. I listened to it on Audible as well. Yeah, and if you guys are trying to learn how to be a good public speaker, listen to Audible books, and you can pick up on the tone of brilliant speakers. Make sure though it's an autobiography read by the person that wrote it. So the best public speaker alive today is this person, and I'm going to play the audiobook in a second. And when you listen to this book, and books in general, I want you to think about tips on public speaking. Alexa, read my book.
Getting your selection from Audible. Resuming a Promised Land.
For 8 years, that walkway would frame my day. A minute-long, open-air commute from home to office and back again.
Alexa, stop. Does anybody know who that was? It's a man I love. I didn't vote for him, but I love him. And he's the best public speaker ever, or at least alive today. So that's how you can learn to be a better public speaker, is listen to audiobooks by, people that inspire you. Make sure they're reading it. Like Sir Richard Branson, who oozes positivity. I love him as well. Okie dokie. All right. And then Hari wrote, yes, Chris, you're right. But I did virtual internship program through Forage. Appreciate your memory power. Oh, yeah, at BCG. Yeah. I remember I was proud of you, man, when you got that, because I got rejected by BCG. Yeah. But I got hired at Accenture, which is a good company. Mark Vincent Besa, how are you, Mark? Mark was in my MBA class, platinum student of mine back in 2019 in the Philippines. And then he networked like crazy, and he moved to Birmingham, England, where he works now as a doctor. Great to see you, man. And thank you for that LinkedIn message as well. Yeah. Yesterday. You wrote, hey, Chris, Mark here. You've always been inspiring to all of us. Thank you. You all inspire me. You wrote, I learned a lot from the MBA degree and connected with lots of people. Keep on writing in LinkedIn until I will keep on writing on LinkedIn until I create a book. Please do it. Yeah. And I remember the first time I talked to you, you showed me a textbook. And it was, who was it? It was the guy, Dr. Fauci wrote your textbook that you showed me the first time we spoke. And I remember you had a little weight as well on the side. Yeah. Alexa, thank you. That'll be enough.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
I'm usually very polite to Alexa. Alexa? Okay. I very politely told Alexa to stop that noise. Yeah. Okay. And then Mark wrote, sounds like Obama, Chris. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And Erkin John, you're right as well. And then Mark wrote, I'm still in Birmingham. It's a day off, so I managed to listen today, Chris. Awesome. It's great to see you. Well, God bless you all. Thank you for your time this week. This has been fun as always. I will see you every single Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And for those of you that are interested in my Silver MBA program, just go to HarounMBA.com. My other programs are sold out, meaning gold, platinum, and diamond are sold out. But you can sign up for Silver if you're interested. So for those of you in my Silver program, I will see you in a couple of minutes for our weekly 1-hour Zoom call, which you can get in the first oh my God, I talk a lot, which you can get in the first lecture of your curriculum. God bless you, everybody, and thank you. Bye.